This is Season 4, Episode 43 of In Touch with Terri, a podcast for aesthetics professionals. The title of this episode is Diving Deeper, MedSpa versus Plastic Surgery Data, and the benchmarks you must know.
If you think about how much profit there is in a surgery compared to injection or even a laser treatment, it's so significant. It's in thousands of percentages, right? It can be like between 70% to 20% difference of what you're going to keep as a profit based on the treatment. And that start to create the entire area of differentiators when you think about as a business model, what can I afford or how can I expand or should I hire or should I buy more or any of those kind of decisions, or how many patients I should see in order to generate the same amount of revenue at the end of the month. So from the profit margin, then it goes down into the scalability of the business itself. How many doctors did you see ever in one practice? It's normally one. In good cases, sometimes two. But when it comes to med spas, you ask how many providers you have. Oh, we have 10, we have 20 providers. So med spas are a lot more scalable because their traffic is so much faster. So that is really the fundamental differences between the two.
Hello and welcome to In Touch with Terri, our power-packed podcast for the medical aesthetic industry that brings you expertise, authenticity, more importantly, real solutions that have proven to increase profitability, employee efficiency, attract, convert, and retain more patients, and feature some of the top industry experts as guests. Hi, I'm Terri Ross, former Fortune 500 executive, international speaker, founder and co-CEO of Apex Platform and a Terri Ross Consulting. On today's episode, I am so excited to be joined by my long-term friend, industry expert in data analytics, and of course, our new co-CEO of Apex, Isaac Muesli. Hello, Isaac.
Hello. Thank you for having me again on your show. And now as your co-CEO, I'm so excited. Thank you.
I know. And I am so excited. And for those of you that don't know, I'll share a little bit about what Apex is. If you don't know what it is, I know we put out a lot of content. So I really want to always, first and foremost, say thank you so much to our fans, our tribe, our listeners. We are so grateful for you every day for all the feedback that you give us and the comments and for sharing. Again, you guys are the reason that we do what we do. But, Isaac, I'm so thrilled. Him and I have been friends for 10 years. He had a very successful company, Atlas KPI, and medical PRM that he sold in the aesthetic industry. When I was a managing partner at Lasky, we worked together looking at the Atlas KPI data. And I am truly blessed and so honored to have him as our co-CEO to really, really take Apex to the next level and give you guys the tools, the resources, the training, more importantly, the analytics that you need to go into 2022 and into the future being successful. So Isaac, please tell our audience a little bit about you before I just keep going on and on about your crazy success.
First, I'm super excited joining to Apex because I can really bring a lot of the experience. And like you touched, Atlas KPI was the first business intelligence dashboard in the industry. And I think that one of the missing pieces that we had was the training, right? A lot of the time we were showing a lot of the data and people were like, okay, what do I do with it next? It was really unethical for us to start to give them practice management advices. We know how to run software companies, but aesthetic practice is a completely different animal, right? It's closer. It's between kind of like retail and Medcare and a lot of different things. And I didn't have any hands-on experience in a practice working. So I think that my previous experience in Atlas and lead management and all the different solutions that I created in the industry coming together with Apex, it really has those modulars that we were missing and the knowledge that I really don't have. I think for me, it's such an exciting opportunity to really make an impact in the industry and our practices.
Thank you so much. And let me do Isaac a little bit of greater justice. I mentioned he did develop 2 software companies in the aesthetic space, both of which were acquired. Again, a data analytics tool and a lead management tool. And then in 2019, Isaac was the chief revenue officer for Simplast, which is a patient management software system. And then I, again, have always admired and respected him so much that I went to him knowing that both of our experiences really do complement each other in so many ways. He just mentioned, he had these amazing analytical tools, but then the question was, what do I do with this information? And I know for the past 10 plus years that we've had Terri Ross Consulting, that's what we hear all the time. And so us coming together really is going to disrupt the industry. And that's really what we're here to do, disrupt and make an impact. And so for those of you that don't know what Apex is, it stands for Aesthetic Practice Accelerator. And it is a business intelligence growth training and analytical tool and platform that has proven to increase profitability, employee efficiency, and so much more. And so today, that is just a little bit of a highlight about what Apex is, but we are here to talk about something so critical to the industry. We always hear words like KPIs and benchmarks. And, I think people get very confused on these three little letters, like I love you, right? And it's not just so simple to look at, hey, I made this much money, or my cost of goods are this, or my utilization is this. What does that shit even mean? Like, honest to God, it doesn't mean anything unless you actually know how to interpret raw data and then how to coach to fix the problem. And we talk about benchmarks, and I have to honestly say, and I always say it from the most humble place, that most practices, love y'all, but most practices, again, I say this so often, there's no MBA school that you guys go to learn how to do this, learn how to train your team, even as a physician or a provider, how to do a consult, how to convert. And so when we talk about benchmarks, sadly, the industry just doesn't even know what they are. So I'm super, happy about today's podcast. I'm going to really pick Isaac's brain, and we're going to share with you the difference between medical spa data and plastic surgery data, because it's not the same. And so with that being said, I want to just really start off again, thanking Isaac for being here. So he recently did a masterclass that's housed in our Apex platform. And the topic was on this specific thing, because it's one of the questions that we get asked so often. What do I look at? What is really the difference? And so I thought I would bring this, information to you today and really help you guys understand the fundamentals. So if you're an owner, if you work in a practice, get out your pen and paper. These are facts, stats, and information that you are not going to want to miss. So Isaac, again, thank you so much. Can you share what really are some of the fundamental differences in looking at med spa data and plastic surgery data?
I think it's really the core of the business model itself, right? So when we think about plastic surgery and we think about med spa, the potential of each one of them is so different of each other. I think they share, and that's where the confusion comes. They share the same market share. They share the same customer profile to most areas, right? Obviously, today, very young ladies go and do Botox. They're not necessarily applicable for plastic surgery, but that's why in many times, anybody that do plastic surgery is 100% suitable for med spa. So sometimes there is that confusion, but they are truly completely two different businesses. So if we look even in I think the number one differentiator will be the profit margin. If you think about how much profit from profit margin point of view there is in a surgery compared to injection or even a laser treatment, it's so significant. It's in thousands of percentages, right? It can be like between 70% to 20% difference of what you're going to keep as a profit based on the treatment. And that start to create the entire area of differentiators. When you think about as a business model, what can I afford, or how can I expand, or should I hire, or should I buy more, or any of those kind of decisions, or how many patients I should see in order to generate the same amount of revenue at the end of the month, right? So it goes into from the profit margin, then it goes down into the scalability of the business itself, right? How many doctors did you see ever in one practice? Maximum I've seen probably 8 or 10, right? And it's like so rare. It's normally 1. In good cases, sometimes 2. But when it comes to med spas, you ask how many providers you have. Oh, we have 10. We have 20 providers. We have a chain of 7 med spas. We know nowadays in the US there are chains of hundreds of med spas of the same ownerships. So med spas are a lot more scalable because their traffic is so much faster. The skill requirements, you don't need to go to med school necessarily, and you don't need to do all the stuff that plastic surgeons need to do, right, in order to be an esthetician or nurse injectors. And this is with a lot of respect, right? No disrespect to those roles as well, but there are so much more of it to hire and then train and get them and be able to scale the business. And then when the smaller profit margin, that's the only way to do the multiplies, because everybody, again, like we had it in previous podcasts, right? Everybody competing against time. So you just need to play the multiply numbers from how many providers can I have, how many they can generate in the same amount of time that one can generate. So that is really the fundamental differences between the two.
So I'm going to recap that. And you guys, what I'd really like to do, because I think this is such extremely valuable information, is break this down into segments and recap what we're talking about so that you guys can take a pause for a second and really write the information down, because I do encourage you that these are things you must know, not need to know, have to, you must know. We're wrapping up 2021, ending Q4, going into 2022. And it's going to be really vital that you guys are set up for success. So I want to use this analogy, and I love it so much. If you have a sports car and an SUV, right? They're both cars, but you don't drive them the same. And so we can't really look at a plastic surgery practice in a med spa as the same. And I know from experience, I have worked with hundreds. The quickest ways I was able to scale a lot of doctors that you guys might know is that we really have to close the gap on that consultation process. And that if you're having surgery, you have to do a pre and post treatment plan to be able to get that patient doing everything in the practice. But what Isaac said, and the question was, what are the fundamental differences? And he said profit margins. So I want to say, you guys, a typical med spa's profit margin is really only about 20%. So if you are below that, something's wrong. Okay. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just means the opportunity to change, improve, and grow. And then for a surgical practice, around 70%. So go back, look at your numbers. He talked about profit margin, scalability, and then capacity. So it's really a couple things that are critical for you guys to know. Isaac, what are some of the core key performance indicators in relation to revenue? Because I know there's a ton, and I think people get very confused on what should I look at. And I know this is something we teach in Apex. It's in Apex. So, what are some of these things that they need to look at?
Oh my God, and it's a great question, and it's so complex question at the same time, right? And I'll start. It's probably the most common question I've been asked when I used to run Atlas KPI. Give me the 10 KPIs that I need to monitor. And it's really not like, if you choose to be a business owner, you're going to need to analyze so much KPIs. You're going to need to know so much of the data. KPIs is there to really help to adjust multiple areas and just give you kind of like how much mile per hour you're driving, right? That's in a KPI, right? So it's taking it. You don't need to count how many hours do I drive, what's the distance that I made. You know in what speed and how much you're going to cover. So every business really need to have those, and I'll call them core KPIs, because it's really the basics of every business needs to know that, especially if they're in aesthetic, the type of that business, the business model, they have specific KPIs that they have to measure, but it's definitely not limited to that. They can go beyond that. It depends on what goals they have, depends what initiatives they do, and they want to focus on those areas. No matter what's the other revolving KPIs that they may monitor seasonality, right? Those core KPIs, they really need to know those numbers top of their mind, or have them in a very easy way to take a look and before they make any decision, to be familiar with those. And I'll say for revenue, we will go by total revenue over time and always compare it year over year, quarter over quarter, month over month, and just from the day you started, kind of like your growth rate. Because when you look at that and you look historical, that can give you a lot of identifier of how you're going to perform moving forward if you're not going to change a lot, right? Mm-hmm. The same revenue by providers. It's always important to know who are the providers that provides more, right? Then can go into the calculators that we have in Apex and see what even their profitability, because it's no less important, but the first line is always the revenue. So who are the providers generate the most amount of revenue? Your service categories. So what are the areas? And that goes a lot in relation to lead sources, right? What areas should I push more? What people are buying from me the most? Revenue by lead source. Where are the people coming over to your business? Revenue by hour. That is a huge one, because that goes against to what we're fighting on, right? We're always competing against the time. So if you know to calculate your revenue by the hour, and you start to go by the surgeon, by the non-surgical provider, by the esthetician, all of those, and we'll touch the ranges of where they should be, only then you really understand if you're maximizing your capacity. If you're really competing, you're giving a fair fight to the time limits that you have during the day. So surgeon should generate between 3 to 3.5K per hour. A non-surgical provider, injections, all of those needs to generate between 600 to 1,000 an hour. An esthetician should generate about 250 to 350 an hour. That's really where they need to fall. And the last, and of course not least, and that's been missed by so many aesthetic practices, and it's almost like a must. And for me, I also have an experience in retail previously, and for me, it's a mind-blowing when I see them not selling retail. Retail should be about 20% of the total revenue. If they don't sell retail today, they can know that if they will probably tap up their revenue in 20%. If they less than 20%, they should start to do a better job in offering their services and introduce people. Because somebody that goes and do a procedure, always going to need to also buy a cream and need to buy the other stuff. And you can probably talk way better than me on how to build those treatment plans. That it's really comprehensive solution. And he's not doing a surgery for tens of thousands of dollars and then end up in Walmart buying a cream, right?
Well, I love it. I mean, clearly anybody knows. I think I've traveled the world this year speaking, and anyone that's seen me on stage, you're right. We speak the same language. These particular benchmarks are so critical. I love what you said, that there are so many. And if you're an entrepreneur and an owner, you do have to look at so many things, but what Isaac just honed in on are some of the most critical ones that you need to know that actually are going to move the needle. Because you guys, listen, people can say, and we hear it all the time. Somebody just called me yesterday. They're like, God, we are booked for 3 months out. I said, great. That is fantastic, right? Again, being busy doesn't mean being profitable. I said, you know what? I want you to do me a favor. I want you to go back to your practice. I'm going to task you to tell me that provider's revenue per hour. How sad. We just talked about the benchmarks being 600 to 1,000 for a traditional medical spa, right? Or more. Okay. This person was at 400. What does that mean? That means that we are not cutting it. Okay. So you could be busy, but busy doing what? And there's only 2 ways to make more money. We need to either increase our capacity. So how many more people can I see in a day? And or we have to increase the amount of revenue that we're generating. And that is how we are going to maximize and really tap into our true potential. So I'm going to just high level go through real quickly. You know, I asked Isaac the core KPIs that we both talk about and speak about and teach about. That's also within our Apex platform, is that look at your total revenue over a period of time. Look at it by provider. Look at it by the services that they perform. Look at it by the lead source, and then look at it by hour, and then look at your retail. You guys, this is where the rubber meets the road. And when you're wondering, like, how am I going to grow and what am I going to do and how am I going to get there? A lot of it really just comes down to you having the ability and you having the courses and the training and the expertise, which again is why we're here to do what we do and why we built Apex. But you're going to learn, more importantly, like what these things are and then how to do it and then how to coach to it. And this is really going to take you guys to the next level. Okay, next question. Let's talk about what are the core KPIs, Isaac, in relation to expenses?
That's also a great question, because once you generate all the money from the core KPIs of the revenue, then you really need to look at your expenses so you can keep as much as possible in your pocket, right? So I really want to focus on the 3 main areas. The first one, gross profit. And we touched it in the fundamental difference. I've noticed a lot of plastic surgery practices that really don't look at their COGS, because their COGS is compared to MedSpa is very minor. But I think it's still very important to look at every dollar just for the sake of clean books, to really understand how you operate and how much it costs you to operate, whether it's a surgery or whether it's a different procedure. You really need to understand all the costs that are involved in that. In addition to that, you need to look when you're MedSpa, you're aiming to about 20%, like we said, right? So any consumable that you're using are so high. So when you think about your revenue, then you think about your COGS, your cost of goods sold. It's all the consumable, everything that costs you money in order to generate the procedure or the service, and that's your gross profit. So plastic surgery should be 70% or more, MedSpa around the 20% or more. The second probably largest expense in most practices are the payroll budget. When they look at the total revenue, how much revenue did I generate? Your total budget for that payroll alignment from the line, if you're looking at QuickBooks, should be between 30 to 35%. That's what you should really pay on payrolls. And the third, and probably one of the more important one that to put an eye on, is your marketing budget. So look again at your revenue and set the percentage of how much you spend on marketing. And if you're an established practice, you should probably spend between 8 to 12%. If you want to push hard, or if you're a new practice and you really need to be out there, spend between 15 to 20. Those are the average percentage for how much you should spend on marketing in order to continue to grow, of course.
Okay, those are some pretty astounding numbers that again, so important. I'm going to recap because I just want to make sure you guys get it. Gross profit for surgery, 70%, 20% for MedSpa, marketing budget, 8 to 12, 10 is the kind of the sweet spot, 15 to 20 for a new practice. And then I really want to kind of clarify because people get very confused. Overall payroll, yes, 30 to 35%. But let's talk about what that means. Okay. Your cost of labor should be 20% or below. And then everything that's administrative is the difference. So we are giving you guys like literally like pearls right now, like sticks of gold, that if you actually go back to your practice and like go sit down with a pen and paper and just do some simple math. I mean, I highly encourage you. I invite you. We so are doing this because we care about the health and the success of your practice so much that we want to hear from you. So if you're not meeting any of these benchmarks that we are sharing with you, I invite you to do a demo of Apex and reach out to us and join our Facebook group and DM us and just let us know, because that's what we're here to help you with. Okay, moving on. What are some other core KPIs that are in relation to earnings and the balance sheet?
That's actually even more interesting. So many of the surgeons and many of the business owners that I met or known over the years and talked with them about data, most of them don't even know about the existence of balance sheet. Or everybody is so focused on profit and loss report. And profit and loss report is just a piece of the puzzle. It's just half of the picture, not even half. It's probably a third of the picture. And the 2/3 is actually in the balance sheet. The balance sheet is the one that compile all the rest of the moving piece inside your business. And without going into the very deep details on what is the differences, and I think the core KPIs that we can say are probably most important to monitor when it comes between your earnings and the numbers that are in your balance sheets are your cash flow. You need to know how much cash you have in your bank at all time. Cash is king. Even today, I was just reading a book about it. I listened to a book about it. And even then they said, cash is king. The reason for that, because you never know when is going to be the next pandemic. You never know when you're going to need to invest. You never know when are you going to need to do any initiatives. You always need to have a reserved cash in your bank account. Never go low, I'll say. Assets is all the value of all your goods. If you have inventory on your shelf, that's worth money. If they come and you want to sell all of it, how much that's worth? All the devices, all the laser machines, hundreds of thousands of dollars that's being invested, those are assets. Those goes into your balance sheet. That has a worth for your company. If come time and you want to sell your practice, and I've known many practices that did that on the MedSpa side or the plastic surgery side, and you want to estimate what is the value of what you have, that's in on your balance sheet. You just need to keep maintaining it. Every new machine that you buy, make sure you put it under your assets. Every inventory that you purchase before you sell it is just a running number. Liability, it's a point of concerning to know that there are practices that don't track it. Any money that you owe, and for example, unused gift cards, prepayments, those are not money to be recognized as part of your cash. They're not part of your, I'll say they're part of the cash in the cash flow, but they're definitely not part of your cash to use. Because it's not your money, it falls under liability. If something happened to that patient, you may need to return that money back. So track it separately. It's called liability. Again, it's on that balance sheet, so you can see how it's all balanced each other. EBITDA, earning before interest, deduction, tax, and amortization. Most people know and confuse it between that and profits. It's not profits, because profits, of course, it's after you already pay your taxes and after your accountant did all the magic that accountants are doing to try to deduct as much taxes that you'll pay or combine all the interest that you gain or loss. So the EBITDA is really the net number after your operating expenses. So the numbers that you can control. All your operating expenses are the numbers that, as a business owner, you do have control over them. You can negotiate rates with your merchant providers. You can hire, fire, you can buy, you can spend more on offices, on the equipments and stuff like that. But there are taxes that you cannot control. You cannot control deductions. You cannot control interests. Those are overheads. Those are falling after EBITDA. And then, of course, profits, which is the last final bottom line of what can you really keep in your pocket. So those are between earning and balance sheets, so kind of like between the profit and loss report and balance sheets. Those are the most important: cash flow, assets, liability, EBITDA, and profit.
You guys better pause this and go back and listen again, because that is some stuff that's like way over many people's heads, some things that your CPA is talking to you about. But again, super duper important when we're considering, do I buy this piece of equipment? Do I get it at the end of the year? Look, I come from that Fortune 500. I know these reps are going to be in your door, knocking on your door, buy this 179 tax write-off and all that good stuff, right? So these are really, really critical things. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about some specific medical spa KPIs. And, a little bit about the difference. We really just spent our time focusing on surgery. Let's get into the MedSpa ones, Isaac.
Yeah. So MedSpas, like I said, starting from the understanding of capacity, profitability, all of those kind of things are different. So I would focus on my capacity from working hours versus available hours. So how many hours I have in the day, how many each one of my providers actually worked, had the patient in the chair, and generate revenue. That is my capacity calculation. So working hours versus available hours ratio, 70% is a good capacity to have. So when you're on 70, you know that you actually use, people do need a break. You do want them to breathe between each one of their patients, but you do want to keep them very busy. Invoice average amount should be about $450. So any patient coming through your door should end up about $450 spending in your practice. So you will net that profitability from the different patients that coming. Average monthly revenue by your square foot. So again, that has come a couple of variables, of course, what area you're in, right? How cheap you got your office space and stuff like that. But based on your square foot, if you're really using all the different rooms, you use all the different areas. And I've heard Terri suggesting to people, and it was eye-opening for them, use some other area for the numbing patients, so they don't take a room that can actually generate revenue by the time they're waiting for the numbing to take place. That's a great way to take advantage on your square footage. $128 per square foot. That is really the number that you should aim for. If you're above that, that's great. If you're below that, it means that you're not utilizing your area enough. And profitability by service. We talked about it before also, right? You can do it by category, you can do it by providers. For MedSpa, I would definitely suggest to do profitability by the different services. They should definitely be above 50%, ideally around the 60% profitability by no matter what service they offer.
My God, such good stuff. Hey, I want to focus on one thing. When Isaac talked about the average invoice amount, that is not, you guys, a benchmark, but the industry average, okay, which is not meeting the benchmark it needs to be. But the average MedSpa invoice, if we're looking at a compilation, and this is really coming from American Medical Spa statistics, right? Not from me. So stats coming from the population of people that have been polled, the average invoice tracks around $450. And then in our Apex platform, we're part of Ronan Solutions, which provides data to ASAPS, American Society of Plastic Surgery. It looks at, again, these 450 practices in a compilation looking at competitive data. And so that is the average MedSpa invoice. So doesn't mean it's your practice. Obviously, we want it to be much, much, much higher than that. But we know that if this is the average, we have work to do. Okay. And again, I look at all these things. I never say that it's something wrong. I do say it's such a huge area of opportunity for us as a whole to really do better, right? To not be mediocre, to think we're doing okay, but not being profitable, to really say, you know what, I am going to put everything aside and I'm going to work on my business, not just in it. Okay. I'm going to work on it, not just in it, because there is so much room for you guys to grow and really come out in these next further years based on some of the things Isaac said. And before, we need cash flow, right? The typical practice or person even, or business has about 3 months reserve. That is not a lot of money. So we can't afford to make decisions the way we used to in the past. We have to be smarter and wiser. And when we look at training, it's the number one thing. And I say this so often, sales is the lifeblood of any business, right? Without training, without having your team equipped, competent, competent, how can we expect? I always say inspect what you expect, right? And look at how we're measuring our business. And we just don't do that very often. So we have such an opportunity for growth. I love that stuff, Isaac. Thank you so much. We have 2 more to go. I hope you guys find this podcast super valuable. So let's look at just some of the comparisons, over med spa and plastic surgery.
So we talked about the med spa, right? So let's touch a little bit about the plastic surgery KPIs. I'll say in plastic surgery, since the profitability is so high, the focus is going to be conversions. And when we talk about conversions, there are 3 different points on conversion. It's the inquiries that they get, whether it's over the phone, over the website, over social media, any of those inquiries. They need to look at the really qualified ones, right? Not the ones that try to sell them marketing services or merchant processing services or any of those, but truly people who are interested to get services in their practice. How many out of them are being converted into a consult? That is the one conversion rate. The second conversion rate is the one that most practices today measure, some of them more successfully than others. How many out of those consults turning into new patients in your practice? And the third, and probably no less important than the second one, is how many of the patients that you operate surgery on are now patients at your med spa. And just to give kind of like percentages so you can have a benchmark to understand where do you fall compared to where you should be. For the first 2, inquiries to consult to patients, that should be about 70%. Surgery to med spa services, that should be 85%. 85% of the people you operate surgery, if they are local, if they didn't travel international just to see you because you're an amazing surgeon, you should convert them into your med spa services. And when I say convert, again, it can be part of the treatment plan. It can be by introduce them to the services that you can also offer beyond just surgery. 100% of them are qualified to do also med spa services. So if they did a surgery, you definitely want to introduce them to your med spa. I will say revenue by procedure. Again, that there is some variables there, depends on what is the specialty that the surgeon like to do or specializing in. Based on it's really average revenue by surgery days. So you take the month, you look on how much revenue you generated from surgical procedures, and you look at how many surgery days you had that month, and you just divide the numbers. So you really got to understand what is a surgery day from a revenue point of view looks like for your operating. So then you can make a decision whether you want to add another surgery day every 2 weeks, or you want to deduct surgery day, right? It really depends on, give you a lot of ideas for different initiatives of how to grow your revenue significantly.
This is like music to my ears. Like all this data, isn't it so sexy, you guys? So sexy and fun and so fun, right? Listen, we have to make it sexy. Dress it up, do whatever you want to do. It's going to get sexy when you're like looking at your bank account.
That is what's sexy.
Right? That's going to be sexy time right there. All right. I am like digging this. I hope you guys are loving this podcast. I mean, I know I preach this all the time, but every time I hear it, I just really think about the hundreds of clients we speak to all the time and how much we can help you guys. And so lastly, when we look at, growth, how does all of this really kind of tie in and apply to really both business units looking at aesthetics as a whole?
Yes. So I think it's all starts with expectations. And how do you set expectation, right? I've had a very good conversation one time with the doctor, and I was like, listen, if I tell you this month you made $4 million, if you expected to make 2, now you're amazing, right? You double what you expected. If you expected to make 8, then 4 is horrible because it's half of what you expected. So without having a goal, without expecting a numbers means nothing. Mm-hmm. So there is a couple of exercises that people can do to even have an idea where they want to fall with their numbers. I'll say the first one, look historical data. Look at your historical performance, see your natural growth year over year. Don't even apply new ideas that you have, right? Everybody wants to buy a new machine, hire more people, expand more location. Don't even think about those things. Just look naturally the last 3 years. How much did you grow year over year? How much do you grow month over month or quarter over quarter? Whatever is more applicable to the time that you're been in business. And that's going to give you already an idea. That's called run rate, actually. You take the last 3 months or the last 3 quarters or the last 3 years, you multiply them, and then you divide by 12, and then you look at your average of where you need to fall, and that can be a very good starting goal. then you should also look at industry benchmark. Again, I will put here a big asterisk. I will always advise to speak with a consultant of the industry. You can give us a call or you can reach out to us because there is so many different variables when it comes to benchmarks. Where you're located, what type of services do you see them? Do you have a MedSpa? You don't have a MedSpa? Any of those kind of things. There are so many differences variables that can come into that equation that can change what is your benchmark should be. And the last one, and that actually almost a fun exercise to do, that's when you take your historical performance and you start to apply your assumptions, right? You say, I'm going to increase price. I'm going to hire another nurse injector. I'm going to bring another doctor to work with me. I'm going to open another location. I'm going to buy another 4 lasers machine, and I'm going to be a beast, right? That's most people really enjoying that part because that's where the creativity comes, but that's where you need to tie a number to each one of those. So when you say, I'm going to hire another doctor, what does that mean? I'm going to buy another machine. What does that mean? And what does that mean really have a significant value only when you know the other metrics, right? So when you know what is your revenue per hour for a laser machine and what are your capacities it needs to be in order to generate it, then you can apply the assumption if you buy a new laser machine. What does it mean in revenue? You should really look at the numbers from those exercises. I'll say the number one rule and the number one fault that I always see, stay realistic. Be realistic. Don't think that if you buy now the new machine, it will generate 5 times what the old machine did. It's never the case, right? They're normally very, very close to each other. And if it is, be surprised for the good side, right? It's always better to be better surprised than being disappointed, right? So set goals that you can actually achieve, set goals that they are realistic, and apply your assumptions. Be very conservative when you do those kind of things. But that's a good exercise to set goals to the numbers. So then when you look at those KPIs and you look at your numbers, they actually have meaningful.
Wow. I mean, did you guys soak all that in? That was a lot of great stuff, a lot of stuff. I hope you guys really, I encourage you to go back, listen to this again, I hope you took copious notes. I hope that you found this so valuable because what we covered, God, in this, 45-minute segment are things that Isaac and I and our team literally go lecture about and teach across the country every year. And these are the things, you guys, don't take it from me. Look on our Instagram, look on our website. These are the things that we have built in Apex. And these are the things that exponentially move the needle, right? This is we always talk about, and I say this all the time, people talk about, mental toughness, but it's not. This is mental fitness for your practice. Okay. This shit, when you know this is like financial freedom. This is financial freedom for the rest of your life. Because again, I know none of you got out of medical school or PA school or NPs or whatever it is that you do, right? To be average. If you chose to be an entrepreneur, then you have an obligation, right? You have an obligation to your team, to your patients, because I know that all of you guys are giving your patients 1,000,000%, right? You want the best outcome. You want the best reputation. And we have to give our practices the same amount of love. And what we went through today with you was, again, really breaking apart medical spa KPIs, plastic surgery KPIs, but we gave you the answers. We gave you the benchmarks of what you actually need to know. So as we wrap up this amazing episode, we wanted to give back. We have something extremely valuable for all of you. We know that today's segment was powerful data that will exponentially move the needle, increase your profitability, and improve your efficiency of your practice. I do promise you that. So we are going to invite you to do a demo so our team can learn about you, where you can do a demo of Apex at apexplatform.com. And should you decide to move forward, and I hope that you do, that we are going to offer you a 10% savings on the first year of Apex. You guys, that is huge. 10% savings. You're getting all of the training courses, all of the data analytics in finance, in marketing. You're getting community. You're getting a masterclass. You're getting coaching from our team. It just does not get better than this. So again, if you reach out to our team, schedule a demo, say that you heard about it from the podcast with Isaac and Terri on MedSpa data versus plastic surgery data, you will earn 10% savings on your first year. So thank you guys so much. And I can't wait to see you in our community. Ciao.
Thanks for listening to In Touch with Terri. For more information regarding Apex, the aesthetic game changer, visit apexplatform.com. That's apexplatform.com. We'll include links to everything in the episode notes, including links to all of the ways that you can follow Terri Ross Consulting on all social media platforms. Please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast from whichever platform you might be listening from. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to you joining us on the next episode of In Touch with Terri.